Happy Friday, North Texas! I'm Scott, and today is Friday, December 5th. I hope you all had a great fall break with family and friends and enjoyed those two huge football wins to close out the regular season. Speaking of football, let's check in with Zach Babb for the Mean Green Minute.
Women's basketball dropped to 5-3 on the year with a tough loss to Oklahoma State, who is ranked number 24 coming into the game. The 73-55 defeat dropped the Mean Green to 5-3 on the season. Their next game is at Texas Southern at home on Saturday. That game gets going at 2 p.m. Men's basketball keeps on finding ways to win. Their win streak is now at 4 games after coming away with a hard-fought, close 77-75 victory over Houston Christian at home. Their next game is in Fort Worth against TCU. It's at Dickies Arena. That game is on Sunday at 4:30. And football heads to New Orleans to play in the American Conference Championship game on Friday. It's a 7 p.m. kickoff from Yulman Stadium on the campus of Tulane University. You can listen to the game on 1190 a.m. in DFW or on the free Varsity Network app with Dave Barnett and Hank Dickinson's pregame show getting going at 6 p.m. The game will also be televised on ABC.
Thanks for that update, Zach. We're all so excited to watch the Mean Green play in the American Football Championship tonight. Be sure to check it out at 7 p.m. Central Time on ABC. You can get more UNT athletics updates from Zach by checking out his other podcasts, GMG Cast and This Week in Mean Green Sports. Now, while we wait for that game to kick off, you can pass the time by listening to my interview with Associate Dean for Research and Professor of Emergency Management and Disaster Science, Tristan Wu. It's officially winter in North Texas, and while snow isn't super common around here, we've had some legendary ice storms in recent years. As we're coming off the first harsh cold snap of the season, I thought it'd be good to talk to an expert about how we can all be a little more prepared for emergencies. Let's start off talking about emergency essentials. What are some essential items or ways that people can prepare for emergencies, whether it's items to keep in the house or making a plan? What are some ways people can be prepared?
Okay, so there's a lot of different things that people can prepare. And for different type of hazards, obviously they have different things to do as well. So in practice, for example, people might prepare for 3 days of water and food, those type of things in case they need to shelter in place. Or even if they need to evacuate, sometimes people take those with them as well. And some other common items will be like digital files for all the essential stuff, like all your IDs and stuff like that. And you can just grab and go. So those things actually relied on, in the normal days, you probably have to prepare for that. And so those are the common items. And there will be several other things, like for different type of stuff. So, for example, if you live in the coastal area that's get hit by hurricane sometimes and you need to evacuate, so obviously there's some things that you have to take with you, like your medication, for example, but something like those things along those lines. And for earthquake, like for example in Oklahoma, we in the past we have earthquakes that's driven by the oil industry, and those things, for example, you probably want to prepare your house for that. Like you probably want to strap your cabinet and stuff onto the wall so it won't fall off during the earthquake. And another interesting thing that people might want to consider for earthquake will be like having a pair of shoes next to your bed in the night if you need to wake up and go somewhere to hide under the desk or stuff like that. You probably want to wear your slippers and stuff like that. So all in all, we have some of the common items that people can use for different hazards. And in our research, that's the thing that I've been doing with my other colleagues, is that we call that the multi-use items. And that tend to be something that people are willing to prepare. And because one item, for example, 3 days of water and food, can be used for tornadoes if you need to stay in your cellar, the shelters and stuff, you probably need those. And batteries, all those things can be used for different type of hazards, and people are more willing to prepare for those because for them, in a way, it's a low cost stuff. But for more expensive things, like for example, evacuation plans, that's something that's require a certain knowledge, some type of knowledge. You know where to go, and you know where are the evacuation shelters or your friends, and you need to coordinate. Those will be a little bit difficult for people to do, and for evacuation, if that's only for hurricanes, people might have a less likelihood to do that. Yeah.
In terms of items to kind of keep on hand, like I know, like growing up, it was always like, you want to have know where a flashlight is. You want to have like a radio so you can listen to emergency broadcasts. Now people have cell phones, so they might think that covers them because the phone has a flashlight. The phone can tune to different things. But if a cell phone tower gets knocked out, like, is it still important to have kind of like the old-fashioned flashlight?
Yeah,
hand just
exactly. Yeah, if you get those emergency kit from Walmart or Target, even they usually have like a package, and those are not super expensive. And they usually have all the things like band-aids, flashlights, or some basic thing that you need during evacuation or during shelter in place. So try to find one of those, or even in Amazon. I think they sell those in Amazon as well. Have one of those in home at your house. I think that's really helpful. And in terms of warnings, we are in the generations that's most of the people actually have a smartphone. And in the past, when I was a graduate student, we don't have all of those. Like a lot of people still use flip phones, but nowadays, pretty much people have those. But like you said, if the tower get knocked down, then people won't be able to get any of those. So old-fashioned with a radio will be something that emergency managers usually recommend people to at least have one in their home. And especially for like sirens, like every Wednesday we have siren tests here. But for those sirens, it's only for outdoor, the tornado sirens. So if you're outdoor, you can hear them. But if you're inside, most likely you might not be able to hear any of those, especially if you're far away from the tower. So for those, you probably want to have a weather radio at home, and they can warn you about things that's coming. Yeah. And those are also cheap as well. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about, I think you've done some studies about how people respond to warning systems and stuff. I know, living in the North Texas area, when we get, severe thunderstorms and tornado warnings, tornado watches, I know it has to get pretty serious before I'm going to go upstairs and get the kids out of bed and bring them down to the closet where we shelter. What are some ways to kind of get people to take those more seriously or understand the severity?
Yeah. I think National Weather Center has been doing a really good job on how to put together a warning message. So some of the key things, theories or researchers in disaster science has been identified that at least you need to give people, to let people know when it's coming and the severity of the thing, and also what they can do to protect themselves. And the thing that they can do to protect themselves is very important. So in the past, sometimes you'll get a warning and say, for example, tornado is coming and it's gonna be in your area under tornado warning, giving a certain time, but not telling you that's what you should do. And that is not really helpful because people know the threat, but they don't know how to protect themselves. So these days, all those warnings will usually include a message like you need to shelter in place and stuff like that. And so that's one. So the warning itself is getting better, but how to get people to actually act is still a difficult thing to do, especially in the recent era, actually, because we call that there's a lot of information out there these days, and so the individuals, when they receive warnings, it's almost like they have to get through the noise and they find out which one actually will help them and which one they actually have to follow. And so recently, a lot of researchers has been trying to do research and tell people that when you send out a warning message, you need to be very clear, and that needs to be trustworthy and timely inform people about any of those. And as a researcher or as emergency managers, we know that people is going to search for other information from other source, like not just your cell phone. Sometimes people look at turn on the TV and try to figure out what is going on. And some extreme case, is maybe like go next to a window and try to see if the tornado is there or the funnel cloud is there or something like that. So yeah, it's a lot of cutting through noise these days, and especially sometimes you might getting the information that is not from the officials and probably from a random person posting something online, and it's might not true, might be true, might not be true, and people get confused. So helping people to cut through the noises is very important for emergency managers in this generation. Yeah.
I want to ask about, I know that we all get like the emergency warnings on our phone when there's like severe weather, but are there other systems that like it might depend on kind of where you are regionally, but that people can like subscribe to or sign up for those kind of warnings?
The We Are message is something that the National Weather Center has been pushing in the past 10 years or 20 actually, but sometimes people turn off that, so we strongly recommend people not to do that. And that's different from Amber Alert. Those are two different things. And sometimes people just turn off their phones on those things and they won't be able to get any of those. And that's one. And the old-fashioned siren system, I think that's also very important as well. But the key thing about those is people need to know what to act when the siren system is sound off. And another thing is sometimes the maintenance of those siren system can be an issue as well. Sometimes the emergency manager might try to send out some messages through those siren system, and the message was not clear, and that's people get confused as well, and they might lose the time to actually react. So those you want technology, but you need to have the old-fashioned thing that's actually it's going to work no matter what, and to prepare and ready for different things.
Yeah, talk a lot about like what individuals, families can do to be prepared to get those warnings. But what about like local emergency managers? What can they do to help people be prepared and get them to respond to disasters?
In terms of preparedness, I think for local emergency managers, main mission is to educate people, to communicate with people, like in a protection motivation theory and protective action decision model. So for those theories and models, one thing that they always say is the efficacy. So things that make people prepare, there are three major things, I would say. So the first thing will be what we call the risk perception. How likely do you think you will be injured or your house will be destroyed when the tornado hits you? We call that a risk perception. And another thing will be what we call the efficacy. So if I have a storm shelter, is that going to protect me? That's an efficacy for that storm shelter. Or if I have 3 days of water and food, is that going to help me during the disasters? That's efficacy. And the other thing will be resources. So whether or not you have money to build a shelter, whether or not you have money to buy a weather radio or other things. So OMO, resources, that's not something that we can really control, but we can help people to prepare for those, like by providing different programs. Like for example, in Oklahoma, the place I used to live, they actually have a program to help people to build storm shelters. And for risk perception things, we can tell people the storm is very dangerous and stuff like that to increase their risk perception. But for efficacy, that's relied on everyday education, like telling people that this is actually going to help you. And some people might not actually believe that or think that it's useless or stuff like that. But as an emergency manager, send out brochures or participate in community events or HOA events even, and those have a direct contact with people and build that people relationship is very important for emergency managers. But at the same time, I understand that a lot of emergency managers have other jobs as well, because in emergency management, especially in small city or small towns, they're usually the fire chief is the emergency manager. The fire chief have other things to do as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of difficulty there as well. But I would say one way to look at it is, for example, Denton Emergency Management Office. They usually work with our departments, and our department have researchers, our department have student force that can help them to put together plans or go to community to do those outreach activities. So like in our departments, we have students have to take intern. So sometimes they'll just go to the emergency management office in Denton and help them with things, and that's their internship credit. So a lot of those. And another thing that's learning from other countries is, for example, in Japan, they when they send out those brochures, those are not just a piece of paper. There's something useful actually, like a kitchen towel. So, for example, that's I see my brother live in Japan. They in their house they actually have a kitchen towel, and that was sent. They received those from the local government, and all this kitchen towel has all the things that you have to prepare during the earthquake and stuff like that, because it's a kitchen towel.
Yeah.
So it's actually can be used for other things, daily things. So they always have that. And so when things happens, one is let's remind them to do things, and when things happen, they can go back to that and see what other things they can do to protect themselves. So something like those have a multifunction. I think that is very important, and that goes to the preparedness items I was talking about earlier too. The things that's have multifunctionality will help people to actually increase the likelihood of them to actually purchase them or having those in their house. Yeah.
I think you kind of covered this a little bit, but if in case there's anything else, can you talk about your role as a university researcher? Talk about how your department works with Denton Emergency Management, but helping local emergency managers and communities better prepare for future disasters.
Yeah, so as a researcher, I think the major thing for us in our job, obviously, we have in a university setting, we have to teach, we have to train the next generation emergency managers. That's obviously very important. And we are not just training them for the hands-on activity kind of things. We also train them the concept, the theories that people have been studying in the past 50 or 60 years. And those theories actually tell us a lot about how people react to things and how people do things. And if we understand that, and they can help emergency managers to better prepare people for different disasters that might come to your community. And another thing will be doing research. That's another part of our job. And for doing research, obviously, you have to do a rigorous research, evidence-based research by doing surveys, interviews, or risk analysis, those type of things. But most important thing for the research is to disseminate, to share your research findings. And in the academic setting, we have all these research papers, peer-reviewed journal papers, but a lot of them were like 15 pages, and people might not have time to actually go through those unless you are academic or you do research on your own in the agency. So these days, a lot of us trying to push our research out by writing we'll call it a magazine piece kind of deal, like some major things that people read. For example, emergency managers or firefighters, they always have those type of magazines and talk about fire equipment and stuff. Mm-hmm. We try to have a voice there as well, and also try to participate in like a podcast type of thing and talk to people. I think that's gonna be a very important thing coming moving forward for researchers to share their findings in a way that people actually can comprehend, can understand, and stuff like that. And and another important thing is as a university department, we need to have a diverse, different researchers in our department. For example, myself, I do warnings, I do preparedness, that type of research, but I won't be able to do a whole bunch of other things. So like in our department, we have Dr. Neelan. She does a lot of donation-related issues during disasters or memorial type of things. For example, those strong slogan, how that will actually help people to better prepare for next event or mitigate the risk type of things. And Dr. Schumann, Ronnie Schumann, and Dr. Zavar, they do a lot of buyout stuff or recovery stuff and helping communities to better recover from disasters. Or Dr. Sibnak, she does a lot of evacuation reentry and like how to help people get back to their home after they evacuate from a hurricane event or flood event. So we have a very diverse group and do different research. And between us, among us, we also try to help each other. For example, a lot of my study actually related to Dr. Neelan's study or Dr. Zavar or Neelan's study or Schumann study. So we work together as a team as well. So a diverse research team, and also a plan to disseminate your research finding. I think as a university professor, that's very important for us. And the most important thing, obviously, will be training the next generation emergency managers.
Really appreciate Tristan's expertise. Emergency preparedness is so important. That's why UNT has started testing the Eagle Alert emergency message system monthly to make sure it's working as effectively as possible. If you're a student, faculty, or staff member, check the link in the show notes to learn more about Eagle Alerts and make sure your contact information is up to date. You can also let us know what you think about the show by emailing podcast@unt.edu or calling 940-565-4341. And don't forget to help us grow by telling a friend about the show, sharing it on social media, or leaving us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen. Until next time, we hope you have a happy Friday, North Texas, and go Mean Green. Happy Friday, North Texas is a production of the University of North Texas. Today's show was produced and edited by Scott Brown with original reporting by Scott Brown. For more information, visit unt.edu/podcast.